Welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I am your co-host, Annie Morell.
And I'm your other co-host, Ryan Saylor. This week, we abandon all semblance of the old Fellini as we dive into this colorful landscape, loosely adapting from an old text. Here is Fellini's Satyricon.
Il lusso, la ricchezza, le belle donne, le cene succulente prolungate fino al canto del gallo, le mollezze che ottenebrano il cuore e la mente, i vizi mai rifiutati e sempre bene accolti. Insomma, tutta questa felicità mi ha impestato. Ed ecco quali sono i risultati. Ma anche tu che non hai
Once
un
again,
soldo,
that
sei
was
mezzo
from
storpio,
Fellini's
fratello.
Satyricon. Up front, we are a full spoiler podcast, although I am promising you that you cannot spoil this film. The experience of watching it has nothing to do with the plot, at least to my taste. But before we get into that, we do have some supplementary material this week between his last film, Juliet of the Spirits, and this one. He directed a piece for an anthology work known over here as Spirits of the Dead. It has like 18 names, so I won't go through all of them. And then he also directed what's called a documentary. I would say a docufiction at best.
They wanted it to be a documentary, and Fellini was like, no. I'm in my weird era, so this will be weird.
Titled A Director's Notebook. So we'll go through those, and then we'll get back to the film. And yeah, let's get into it. Usually with anthology work, I like to see the whole thing. So I started up Spirits of the Dead, and I learned, long story short, with the Fellini 100 project, they did restore Toby Dammit, his segment of the film. Beautiful restoration, crisp, clear, presented to its maximum potential. Spirits of the Dead, however, not restored. So when you load up Spirits of the Dead on Criterion Channel, you're watching what appears to be like a VHS rip. It's even got like the old 80s subtitles down in the bottom that I had some nostalgia for. I was like, wow, it's like I'm at my grandpa's house all over again. But yeah, it was clearly not the way to watch this film. So I didn't want that to affect my viewing when there was this option. So I went ahead and just watched the restored Toby Dammit. This is loosely adapted from a story by Edgar Allan Poe. All of the anthology is from Edgar Allan Poe. This one is, what's it called? Don't Bet Your Head on the Devil.
Never bet the devil your head.
Oh, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
And which tells the story about a man eventually losing his head to the devil. So what'd you think of this thing?
I liked it, honestly. I think Fellini's current, like where he is in his style right now, does lend itself very well to horror. I also enjoyed that this was the first actor that I recognized outside of Fellini world. The main character of Toby Dammit is played by Terrence Stamp, who I have seen in various things. I'm kind of a character actor, I think, for at least American audiences. Yeah, it freaked me out. I was unnerved, which I think is, the point. I was hooked by the story overall, and the ending is very creepy. And yeah, I liked it. What was your takeaway from it?
No, I thought this was incredible. I actually think it's a really fun point, kind of looking back and forward in Fellini's work. I think it has kind of the character of Toby is looking back to La Dolce Vita 8.5, like a directionless artist of a man trying to find his place in the world. And then the actual design of the film, the color, the production design, all of that is very forward-facing to new Fellini. We saw a bit with Juliet of the Spirits, but I mean, definitely this week with Satyricon, where there's a whole new artist here. So yeah, I thought it was neat in how it interacted with his larger work, and then I think the piece itself, short, so, doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's, very fun, very dark. I loved looking at it. I think the specific color palette of like reds, orange, and grays and blacks. Yeah, it was something I hadn't really seen much. Just the whole thing kind of looks like a sunset. And you're right, the little girl is super creepy. I guess, well, you were just saying the film is creepy, but I assume you were referring to the devil.
Oh, yeah. The devil who is portrayed here as a little girl with a white ball who is, has a very mature face also, which I think is part of why she's so creepy. And then is kind of giving this very mischievous smile, that upward eye look that just makes you look evil, kind of, no matter who you are. Yeah, she's creepy.
Yeah, there were a couple interesting choices with that all I think paid off. So first of all, he had the actress playing this kid is like 22 years old, so that's where her face comes from. But they just kind of film her like a small,
the old moaning Myrtle.
Sure, but
gambit.
But more intentionality on this one, I think. I'm not sure what was going on with that casting, but it worked for Moaning Myrtle. Anyway, so in the Edgar Allan Poe short story, the devil's like this, aging kind of decrepit man, something more traditional. And he threw that out in referring to his choice. Fellini explained that, quote, a man with a black cape and a beard was the wrong kind of devil for a drugged, hipped actor. His devil must be his own immaturity, hence a child.
Ooh.
So yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, on the subject of him being an actor, you referenced that there are some hints of La Dolce Vita in this. I did like all the kind of takedown of paparazzi culture again.
Mm-hmm.
There's this really invasive interview that he gives where he eventually describes the devil as this little girl that he keeps seeing. I really liked the interviewer in introducing Toby Dammit is like, we all remember him from his famous film, and then she doesn't say the film, which I just thought was so funny. It also, I think it's kind of a withering takedown of actors a little bit, or of at least kind of stars. This guy is not a good guy, and he's clearly like an alcoholic and is very belligerent to pretty much everyone who speaks to him. But then I think that's given like at least a little bit of legitimacy because of how the paparazzi are interacting with him. I liked this, again, kind of fascination that Fellini has with the industry put into this Edgar Allan Poe adaptation.
Yeah, it's cool. From reading, it seems like the other two shorts are mostly deemed inferior, although I'll try to still see it and form my own opinion. But yeah, I mean, this thing by itself, I actually thought was pretty incredible. I loved it.
Yeah, something that I can see. Like, I think it's still effective today as a horror piece, which I don't always find to be the case with older horror. Obviously, the really good ones stand the test of time, but yeah. Oh yeah, the Italian Oscars, a scene where he goes to collect an award at the Italian Oscars, and they tell him to keep his acceptance speech short, and then we see like this montage of all these actresses saying like, "Oh, I want to thank everyone, okay, bye," like keeping their speeches short.
Well, and they're all the same speech. This is my favorite part of that.
Identical speech. Also, the very first actress who wins, we don't see her face. We just get a full shot of her boobs, like going up to the stage. So very heavily implying that is why she got the award, I guess.
Well, the reverse shot of that is Toby looking at her. So I think that was more criticism of him.
Okay, I like that. But yeah, so then he does not keep his acceptance speech short. He recites a monologue from Macbeth, because he's like originally a Shakespearean actor in this world. He admits to his alcoholism and his lack of talent, and he talks about rejecting pure love. And it's this rambling thing, and then he gets his Ferrari. That is why he is even doing this, like why he's agreed to make this public appearance, so that he gets a Ferrari, and then that results in his death.
Yeah.
His decapitation by the devil, kind of, or via a wire on a bridge.
He gets clotheslined.
If only it hadn't been a convertible. He would have been fine.
Very true. After this, Fellini's next feature that he'd been working on,
The Voyage of G. Mastorna.
Yes. Honestly, 8.5, very prophetic here. Fellini had built all these massive sets and there was no film. But I guess not by, in 8.5, it's the director's own fault. In this case, it's just that the film fell out from under him. But yeah, Fellini had to shift from that film that he wanted to make, that apparently he wrote like a whole script for that you can read. I saw it's out there.
Oh.
The film was ready to go, and then just didn't happen, which I mean does so often happen. At this point in Fellini's career, I was kind of surprised, because it seems like, I mean, especially when you're watching Satyricon, it's like this guy could get anything made.
Yes.
But apparently not.
But is he not implying in this that the reason why he didn't make it was because he couldn't cast the main role of Mastorna? Because there's the sequence, so we have a lot of cameos within this piece, and one of them is Marcello Mastroianni, who played the Fellini stand-in in La Dolce Vita and 8.5. And it's him and Fellini kind of talking, and he basically is like, I don't know, I don't think you're right for this role. And Mastroianni's like, well, you thought I was right for these two other roles. Like, I think if you just saw me as being right for the role, then I would be right for the role. Like, then I could do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is in there, but in reading about it, I think that isn't actually the main reason. That is what we're presented in this film.
Okay.
Well,
yeah. And then Mastroianni says to him, it's because you have no faith. You're scared. Which I thought, like, wow, like, okay, you've made 8.5 at this point. You've made La Dolce Vita at this point, and still there's this glimpse of Fellini being like, what am I doing? Am I even good? Like, where's my art going? This insecurity is still there, which is absolutely wild to me.
While all this is going on, NBC has this experimental show happening that I was reading about, where across 5 years, 25 episodes aired. Anyway, each one was about some artist, and they could kind of do what they wanted with it. And so Fellini got contacted and made, over here it's called Fellini, A Director's Notebook. It has different names other places. And he said he was going to make a documentary showcasing what was going on. And it is a little bit of that, but clearly it's pretty scripted. So presented as a documentary, not all documentary in nature. Docufiction, definitely. Maybe even mockumentary.
Yeah, it's definitely funny at points.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre piece.
So eventually, yes, he does meet up with Marcello Mastroianni, and that's what we've been talking about. But before that, we actually do get to start in that set. And he's like, look at all these things that I don't get to do anything with.
So Criterion has done a beautiful job of restoring much of his work. And this is a restoration also by Criterion, but I think perhaps because this was for television, perhaps because NBC doesn't care about preservation, it is by far the worst copy that we have watched so far. That is both visually and orally the case.
Yeah.
It is mostly in English, like it's because it's for NBC. It's very clear to me that Fellini is literally asking people at different points, like, hey, could you say that in English? So there will be like people speaking in Italian. It's not subtitled. And then he asks them to speak in English. And then that's what you get. On top of that, these are a lot of Italian people speaking English. And Fellini, I think, is the worst of them in that his accent is so thick that it was very difficult for me to understand him. So Ryan and I were talking off mic before this, and I watched it on Criterion Channel, and there's closed captioning on it. So I just was like, okay, I guess I need to turn on the captioning. And even then, whoever did the closed captioning also couldn't understand him and other people at certain points speaking English, because there are many points where the subtitle is like, English word, unintelligible, English word. Like it literally says unintelligible. That was a hurdle for me. A bit here.
Meanwhile, I watched this. It is included in the Criterion box set as a supplement, actually on Juliet of the Spirits. And there are no subtitles. So I didn't even know that was an option by streaming it. I really fought the battle.
Yeah.
Did not win. As for the actual restoration, I don't know if your streaming had the restoration note, but if you read it, it literally says like they couldn't do it. So it's not even a restoration. Like the note just ends with them being like, yeah, we tried.
Yeah, well, and there's parts of it, there's like 7 minutes that are just missing, I guess.
So yeah, I mean, if it had been one of his features or something really important to his overall filmography, I think they would have gone into digital restoration and kind of like reconstructed stuff. Like if you've ever seen, there's a short feature made by the Academy in collaboration with Criterion for the restoration process of the Apu trilogy, and a lot of that they had to go in digitally. So I know that is an option. They elected not to do that. So this thing is watchable. It's a mess.
But very interesting to see. I mean, I had not seen any footage of Fellini at all prior to this. So interesting just to hear the man's voice, see him paint himself as a character. Finally, like we've seen so many stand-ins in his purely fictional work up to this point, but to see the man himself, I did enjoy that. We get, as I said, a lot of cameos. Marcello Mastroianni, we get Julieta Messina very briefly, who has this awesome line. Her part is very brief, and she is talking mostly in English, and she's like, "Oh, remember Knights of Cabiria?" And she starts talking about the man with the sack, which, if you listen to our Knights of Cabiria episode, we talk about this, but a producer of that film stole that scene of the man with the sack because he didn't think it should be in the movie. And so she has a little dig there where she's like, yeah, it disappeared. That was crazy how that happened and wasn't in the movie. And then they show like the scene of the man with the sack, except it's awful quality.
And much shorter.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that quite the entire sequence, but definitely from that actual movie. But I liked that little dig that Fellini got his little dig in on that. Again, we have more paparazzi and kind of industry commentary throughout. The Marcello Mastroianni visit that he has also features a sequence where Mastroianni is being photographed, by photographers, paparazzi, unclear, and they're giving him this direction of how he's supposed to look, and at one point they're like, could you look virile and timid? And he's like, oh, virile and timid. Like, I also liked, he's very charming as a person. I see now why he was cast in his previous roles. There's a female interviewer who tells him, you're the most famous Latin lover, which I was like, Latin? Okay. He's Italian, but all right. When did you realize women liked you so much? And Mastroianni says, you mean when did I realize I like women? And I just loved that tiny little moment because I don't know, it just felt very again, like ahead of its time. We've talked about how progressive Fellini has been so far in his work, and yeah, just who knows if Marcello himself said that or if that was Fellini writing that for him to say, but I liked it.
We have made it to the late 60s, so we're upheaving. We'll talk about this with Satyricon in just a second for sure, but there are no holds barred anymore. Like Fellini gets to kind of say what he wants, and yeah, it's fun.
Just one last thing on this. I think the ending sequence was my favorite sequence, where Fellini's like in his office and there are just lots and lots of people showing up and being like, don't you need a dancer with trained snakes? Like, I'm really tall, or like, I play the accordion and I think my music and your film work have a lot of similarities. Like, could you use me? Just a lot of people being like, can I be in your movie? I'm a weirdo. You like weirdos.
The accordion player really got me because, yeah, she sets this up. She's like, I make music and I just really see a lot of the same things we're interested in. So I'm like, okay, like, is she gonna sing? And yeah, she pulls out a whole accordion. Really got me.
Good stuff. So moving on to Satyricon, or Fellini Satyricon is the technical title, because I guess there was another guy who made a movie called Satyricon, and so Fellini had to call it Fellini Satyricon. He lost that battle.
Oh, is that true? That's so interesting, because I think the title is great, because it isn't just the Satyricon, it's very much Fellini's take on it. So I liked the title.
Yes, I do think it works for that reason. And then I love the tagline for this film, which is Rome, before Christ, after Fellini.
Yeah, it went hard.
It says it all. It says it all. So yeah, there's another movie that came out in the same year, 1969, called Satyricon, that is lusty adventures of two men and a transvestite young man in times of Rome's Nero. And it looks to be a good deal more traditional.
Sure. I mean, it'd be hard to be more experimental.
Yeah, true. Very true. But I agree. I think it's actually ultimately good that the title is technically Fellini Satyricon.
It's also really interesting. Like, I don't know if Italian copyright law is just more strict than American, but you can't really copyright like the name of a first century text, that's very odd. You could literally release another The Odyssey this year and you wouldn't get in trouble because like that's That's the name of the thing. Like, you can't trademark that.
Yeah, like Wuthering. That is that why Wuthering Heights is in quotes. It's different than the other ones. No, I see what you're saying, and yeah, I guess Italian copyright law in the 60s just must have been really strict. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Satyricon is a Latin piece of fiction written in around like the late 1st century AD, most likely by Gaius Petronius. It's like a mixture of prose and poetry, and it's something that I had never heard of before. It's written in the style of Menippean satire, which is a type of satire that doesn't try to satirize specific individuals or entities, but instead attacks mental attitudes and like social types. I pulled all this from Wikipedia to give some credit. So, like, traditionally, a Menippean satire would ridicule social types like pedants, bigots, cranks, the new rich, and social climbers, which I definitely think we see in this film. These kind of like social archetypes, incompetent professionals, virtuosi, which is funny to me because the rest kind of seem like actual bad things, and like a virtuoso is just like someone who's really good at something. So I don't know. Generally, the Menippean satire is very stylized. It's not naturalistic, which again I think we see here, and we'll talk about, I'm sure. It's parody, it's mythological burlesque. And generally, it contains critiques of myths inherited from traditional culture. It's often a fragmented narrative, which, yeah, we have a very fragmented narrative here. Some modern examples of Menippean satire to give you some reference points.
Okay.
Alice in Wonderland, the Lewis Carroll book that I'm sure everyone knows. Terry Gilliam's film Brazil.
Okay.
James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, Gulliver's Travels. So all these things kind of, parodying the social types of the world. I did also read, interestingly enough, that F. Scott Fitzgerald was toying with titles referencing characters in Satyricon for The Great Gatsby. Yeah, I just, something I never learned in theater school and regular school. Never have heard of this, but clearly prevalent. A couple of terms that I think are helpful before we start in this discussion, because we have our main character, Encolpius, is this young Roman man who has a relationship with pubescent boy, but still very young, like basically a young teenage boy named Gaitan. The pronunciations in Italian do not translate to me, so apologies if I am saying these wrong. Gaitan is, in the original Satyricon, described as a catamite, also a term I did not know, but it is a pubescent boy who is the intimate companion of an older male.
Yeah, that was a thing in Rome.
That was a thing in Rome, a real thing, yeah. And this was known as a term for this type of relationship is pederastic. Generally, it means men, but it is a same-sex age gap relationship. You know, in today's times, I would say this is molestation. Yeah, so it's immediately, even with it being very otherworldly feeling, even with it being in the early first, before Christ times, it's still immediately uncomfortable to watch. Just wanted to introduce those terms before we dive into the plot.
Sure.
whatever amount of plot there actually is.
There's an inciting event. Then after that, I don't know.
The inciting event is that Encolpio is like sad at the start of this because Gaitan has been taken away by his other lover, who is not a young boy, but someone more his age, it appears. Ascetus?
Sure.
He has taken away Gaitan, and he finds out, Encolpio finds out that Gaitan has been sold to this actor named Vernaccio. And so he goes to find Gaitan and watches this very bizarre clowning performance by Vernaccio and a whole host of performers, which I think immediately checks our weird performance box this time.
Yeah, we definitely have the processional and the dancing in this one.
Yes. And so he gets him back from Vernaccio, and he takes him home to his compound. And apparently Ascletus and Encolpius share the compound. And so Ascletus is like, well, it's time to split up our belongings, and then kind of jokes like, oh, we got to split Guyton in half, which I don't know a ton about the Bible, but biblical reference there, splitting a boy in half. But ultimately, they let Guyton decide who he wants to be with. And Guyton just like immediately, like even I was like, oh, this is messed up. Guyton immediately picks Ascletus and goes off with him. That is the inciting incident that leads Encolpius to start going on this journey to try to get Guyton back.
A couple things that stand out immediately when you watch this. Fellini described making it as making a sci-fi, and that kind of paints maybe the wrong picture, but Fellini definitely, from a design standpoint, films as if this is truly otherworldly, not historical. And you kind of have to see it to really feel that difference in how it looks. But it doesn't quite look like what you're expecting. It's definitely not a swords and sandals Hollywood epic or anything kind of quite resembling that. In fact, it almost parodies that kind of historical look. I read Fellini lead more into that, the later film Roma, which we'll get to. I haven't seen that one either. So, just regurgitating what I've read online. But to my understanding, the parody's light here and then eventually, stronger. Anyway, the most otherworldly stuff, they went all in on this score, which is a combination of new pieces from Nino Rota, who's still collaborating with Fellini, as well as this experimental electronic work created by, I might butcher some names here, but Ihan Mimaroglu, Todd Doc Stater, and Andrew Rudin. So, drew from a couple places. Some of the music was made before the film. A lot of it was composed for the film. Anyway, trying to get this new otherworldly soundscape. And it's wonderful. I mean, it gets weirder and weirder. And by the end of the film, I mean, it's out there. Experimental even by today's standards. So, yeah. I was having a lot of fun with it as a music nerd. The other thing that stands out just immediately, which we talked about this some last week, obviously, as Juliet of the Spirits was his first color film. But this one, essentially the color exploration that he used in the mansion last week is just everywhere this time. This thing is colorful and, yes, bombastic in its design. Beautiful to look at. Just about every costume, the sets are gargantuan, and they're all painted these lovely colors. There's a lot of art in the film. There's actually that kind of discussion of the corruptibility of art is back from La Dolce Vita, which was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Poetry shows up. Some stealing of poetry.
Yeah. And so they spend a lot of time looking at art actually in this film, and all of that is used to, draw out these other great colors. There's like this very noticeable teal mask that stayed with me. I can still picture it. It's beautiful. The production side of this film, very distinct, very neat. I think, full success. I think everything on that part of the film's design is just pulled off incredibly. I mean, we talked about Fellini's framing and cinematography from the get-go, but now just completely unrestrained and having every tool he wants and having that be the main focus of the film is just how it looks above all else. I mean, this thing is incredible to look at.
I agree. Like this to me is one of those films that I wouldn't recommend as a film. Maybe I'm skipping to the very end of our show, but as a spectacle, like as a piece of art, it is very impressive. As a movie, I'm not sure.
Well, what? I guess, if you come for a narrative, you'll be disappointed. But I don't think there's anything wrong with a visual medium, primarily focusing on visuals. I don't think that's, when you say this isn't a recommendable movie, like what does that mean?
I do think that the average viewer of film does expect at least one character to be cared about, or like in the same way I've referenced this before, but like in the same way that I'm not like, a Racerhead, a Rip Roarin' Time, like throw that film on anytime, like there different films for different purposes.
Sure. Well, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, but I think
Yeah.
this is a film that fulfills its purpose.
It's an experience.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It fulfills its purpose. I'm having a hard time like thinking of me being like, yeah, a person who is not super into cinema.
Sure.
Watch this. Like, I think I would never hear from that person again. If I were to just say that. So I think that's more what I mean. Just the accessibility is like at its lowest level here.
Okay. Fair enough.
And it feels, I mean, it makes sense to me, the with the source material, but it feels archaic and very new in some ways. Like, obviously, we've already referenced how not traditional this is. Because the source material is so old, like it does feel like an alien world. Like, I do see why he's describing it as like making a sci-fi film.
Yeah,
because it's a world that's like basically unrecognizable to us, a society that functions so differently than our society, and especially like when you think about 1969 society, where there's so much gay stuff in this all throughout. We've already referenced boy man relationships, but there are parts where women are making out with each other. There's all this like very free, open sexuality throughout. That I think would have been very scandalous at the time.
I don't know. I think it actually makes more sense in 1969 than it does right now, because this is coming out during the free love movement. So I feel like viewers at the time would have seen a lot of both the good and the bad of their own what seemed like new ideas. And also I think, we talked about LSD last week. I think this film was also designed for that a bit.
Yes.
I had no source on that. I didn't find that Fellini said that, but yeah, I actually think this makes a lot of sense in 1969. I think this is speaking to a zeitgeist that was going on at the time.
Yeah, this kind of overt richness and indulgence, I guess. I think we see that a lot when we get to the part where you kind of referenced the art being very present, like physical paintings and physical art. And Eumolpus, the old poet that Encolpio comes upon or is friends with, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Relationships kind of don't matter in this. But he initially is talking about that there's so much corruption in the world and it's the result of greed, and you can't be a poet and like be well fed, and then they go to this rich poet's place. It's like this guy who was a poor poet, and then he happened to inherit a large fortune from someone he knew, and so now he's super rich and he's got a wife, and he's hosting this really lavish party that has all these crazy beasts that they've cooked up for the party people to eat, and there's a lot of vaguely sexual stuff happening. There's like butt slapping, and it's this picture of excess, and then you have this point where the rich poet is trying to recite one of his poems that he thinks is good, and then the poor poet Eumolpus is like, you actually stole that from someone. I know that poem, and you stole that. So there's this kind of like hedonism throughout that is maybe I can see commentary on the free love era.
Yeah, and then that poor poet, the one that like seems like this uncorruptible hero, by the end of the film has given in, and now he's rich, and he's like, I've tasted the other side. So yeah, it's there is a lot going on there. Once you succeed in art, you seem to become an awful person, which I think is also interesting, as we're definitely at the height of Fellini being able to make whatever he wants. I wonder if he's feeling a little guilty or something.
Yeah, feeling like, can I make good art now that I'm not, struggling? Yeah, we talked about that with 8.5 and La Dolce Vita, of like his struggles to get funding, and then it's like now he has all this funding, and it's like, what do I make?
Yeah.
What do I do now? And that's still happening here. He knew for the last one, he was like, well, I know I have to apologize to my wife for cheating on her so much. So that's that one done. But yeah, then he makes Satyricon. This proto Mad Max feeling world.
Yeah, well, actually, on that note, so I've not read the Satyricon, so I assumed that everything in this film was grabbed from some piece of it, but that's actually not true. One of the best sequences in the film, at least to my taste, was this Minotaur in the labyrinth thing, and that is a Fellini original.
Oh, really?
At least as far as I can tell, unless he was grabbing from something else other than the Satyricon. Because I did see that this film also takes from the Golden Ass. That was my nickname in high school. So maybe it's from that, in all fairness. But as far as I can tell, at least it's not from the Satyricon. And yeah, that scene's great. Our hero's running around facing, clearly not a real Minotaur, but a real scary man in a Minotaur mask. And they're in this giant maze, and all these onlookers are seeing what happens. And then finally, he's begging for his life, like, please, I'm not a fighter. I don't know how I got here. And the guy's like, you've been pranked all along.
Ha ha ha. Well, yeah, no, he's literally like, I will have sex with you if you spare my life. To the Minotaur. He says enough words that the guy takes off the Minotaur head, and he's like, you know what? I like what you're saying. I will spare you. And then they try to get him to have sex with this woman, and he cannot.
He's very gay.
He's super gay. Yeah. I don't know. We're bringing up random stuff.
Sure.
I'm sure you noticed the many direct stares to the camera. The first one
this was my favorite element of the film. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yay, me too. The first like really, really noticeable one is during this banquet party at the rich poet's house. They're watching someone like speak Greek, and then there's this guy who just like turns to the camera and says, I like to hear Greek when I'm eating. Which is so funny to me. I see Wes Anderson just stealing this direct from Fellini, but yeah, and then past that we just get a lot of people staring directly at the camera as various, some might say heinous things are happening on the screen. And to me, I took that to mean like, oh yeah, you're complicit in this. Like, you, the audience member, are watching this and taking it in, and like that makes you complicit as well. Like, you are no better. I am wondering if you had maybe a different interpretation of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do like that. I think that probably is there because Fellini has condemned excess in his other films, and but in those moments where the people look so disappointed or ashamed or something, I interpret it as they realize we're there, like the audience is watching, and they're like, oh, like, I don't want you to see this. Like, is this me? Is this what you're gonna know me for? And at the end of the day, it is, because I couldn't tell you much else about Rome, from this time, but I do know about the orgies and the violence and the, like that kind of stuff. That's what I was grabbing, was these people realizing that their legacy was this part of it instead of, any of the art and poetry and the other stuff we see in the film.
Ooh, I like that a lot, actually. I think it can be both.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I will take it as both. Should we talk about the funeral cosplay?
Sure. What you got?
Just again, it's like this very weird depiction of excess in this case of the rich poet just being like, yeah, I want us all to pretend like I have died and just act that out my own funeral. And so they do. It's like this whole burial service, and they lay him in this tomb and put a shroud over him, and then his wife makes out with a lady over her husband's shroud, which is a whole thing. But yeah, I think it's just like that self-centered, if I'm this rich and powerful, like I must be important.
Yeah.
So like I want to see and experience people being sad that I am dead. Yeah. Like I even want that. Like there's a greed to an act like that where it's like I want to see the mourners. Like,
yeah,
that will happen actually when I am dead, maybe. But like I am gonna force the people around me to be sad that I am dead so that I can see it and like feel good about myself. It's like very I don't know. There's a sadness to that
Hmm.
to me. Yeah, that you just need like that level of validation almost.
Yeah.
That nothing, no amount of, I think, people in positions of power will sometimes talk about how it's like, oh, once you're like really a famous celebrity, it's like you can't tell if people like really like you for you, or if they're just, trying to use you and your power for their own personal gain. And so I wonder if, that is the kind of natural extension of like, okay, I just need to make sure that people will actually like me, like when I'm dead.
We'll practice.
So we'll practice right now. I don't know.
No, fair enough. I'm glad it spoke to you. I kind of just lopped it in with all of his other weird partying.
Well, and like him, kind of lusting after these two like young boys again. Meanwhile, like his wife is there, and then she, as I said, makes out a couple times with another lady, and he says at one point, "Take her statue out of the mausoleum, so I don't have to stare at her when I'm dead."
It is a funny movie too. Yeah, we haven't really talked about that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. That's all I have on that.
I've talked about other film movements going on. Knights of Cabiria was coming out the same time as Breathless, I think is when we last talked about this. So like French New Wave. But now we're well into New Hollywood. Or not well into New Hollywood, but New Hollywood started. 2001: A Space Odyssey has come out. The stuff before that, Bonnie and Clyde, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, all of that's released. The Graduate is out at this time. So audiences are interested at this point in kind of newer things. And so yeah, this gets distributed by United Artists, and MGM is still on the logo when you press play on this thing.
So wild.
I just love that. I love studios wanting the distribution rights for something like this. I mean, even whatever equivalent film would come out today would be distributed by like, Neon or Focus or like one of the artsy ones. But yeah, at the time, this was, you could get this distributed by a major studio. And I think that is such a relic of that era. The New Hollywood shout out.
I assume probably part of that is just like, we don't know what the next thing is going to be. So maybe it's this. And like Fellini's a pretty popular guy. And so, yeah, let's snap this up. Because if this is the future, like we want to get in on the ground floor. Can you imagine if if film like
all went this way?
Mainstream film went this way. That'd be... We'd maybe live in a better world, honestly. Because, you definitely have to... This is something that you really have to pay attention to.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I don't think I want everything like this, but...
No, I don't either.
But no, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this thing. It kept my interest. I mean, it moved. It's over 2 hours, and I had to leave and check the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm down to just a few minutes. Like, all right, I guess I'll just stick this out.
Well, yeah, a lot of big things happen. I mean, it's very much an Odyssey.
Yeah.
They get captured as slaves. Like, yeah, a lot of stuff happens.
It's beautiful to look at. I think all of the actors that were unknown at the time and still what they're most known for is this film. Like, I think they all do great, and I think they all fit their parts very well. The whole film, it's simultaneously very horny and very violent, but not like exploitative.
Yeah.
I think it's just, it's an impressive thing. Am I going to say that I prefer this to that run of Fellini films from Eva Deloni to 8.5? No. But I was very impressed by this, and I'm excited now that this new Fellini has been fully declared here. I'm very curious to see what happens next.
Yeah, geez. I just have no idea what it could be because this is such a different, like, he's never going to adapt, to my knowledge, another first century AD this poetic satire.
This actually felt like, and I mean, I'm sure he saw it because they did work together that one time and both important Italian artists at the time. This felt like precursor to Pasolini's Trilogy of Life. So, which is only a few years later. It's cool. If I were just to see this, and not know the title of the movie, I guess also, but not know that Fellini directed it, I wouldn't have immediately pegged this as Fellini. It is something totally new.
Definitely. So as I referenced earlier, near the end of the film, we have the Minotaur sequence where he's like, I'm a lover, not a fighter, and they're they're like, okay, so have sex with this woman. And he can't. And then he goes to try to get his impotence solved by more butt slappers. Is the most succinct way to describe them.
They have these little tools.
Yeah, it's like tiny little fly
BDSM
swatters.
Slapper.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they slap the butts. It does not work. He also seeks out there are a couple of little kind of legends, tales that are told throughout. And the second one is about this woman who gets cursed to provide all of the light and fire for her village via her vagina. Is kind of the only way
she does a good job
to say that. And she does a good job. But yeah, they actually seek her out to try to help him. And yeah. So they don't solve that. But then this is when he runs into the old poet who now has since swindled his way to success and has riches and is like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Like has just abandoned all his values. And the old poet dies and leaves riches to his friends with the caveat that they have to eat his body. And Inculpio declines that. And that is pretty much the end of the film. It's unclear to me, for me, I would decline it because I don't want to participate in cannibalism. I think I interpreted it more as him saying like, no, I don't need these riches. Like I'm seeing what happens to people, or I've seen what happens to people when they get that amount of wealth. And
how low will you go for?
Yeah. And then you see he like walks away as the rest of the friends swarm around this dead man's body, ready to do this. Which I thought that was interesting, that this guy who totally abandoned his values kind of left a moral trick as his will.
I think that does fit with what I was talking about earlier, that I think these characters get glimpses of us, the modern audience, and we don't see it with him necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if as he's dying he's like, wait a second, like this is what I'm known for. Like I had all this stuff I was proud of, but now look where I'm at.
Yeah, that people only care about my death as it relates to their own personal gain. Yeah. I do think you just said that you're not sure you would recognize this as Fellini, and I think I agree overall, but I think as we pointed out, there are so many pillars from his previous work of critiquing the rich and critiquing overindulgence in various categories of life here. And then, we got weird performances, so I would have been like, this has to be my guy.
Well, one thing on the ending that I actually like, my favorite piece of it, you didn't mention, we get the match cut of Legend. He cuts off and then suddenly he's just a painting on a wall.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Falling apart island, and that is their ultimate legacy, and that's the final shot of the film is just they're painted on this wall that is gonna not last the test of time.
Yeah, people don't think it's worth preserving. I think it's kind of the implication that their story is not important enough to be preserved. Sad. Because it's not like when you live like a hollow life like that, why should you be preserved? I don't know.
No, I loved that final moment in this film because mostly the criticism, even though it's definitely there, and we've talked a lot about what Fellini says in this film, like it's mostly in the background or a part of another scene or something. But then right at the end, the stinger is just this incredible match cut to what his legacy really is, and it's gone.
Yeah. You have to wonder if Fellini is also wondering what will become of his own legacy.
Sure.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, and then looking forward, just thinking about like what he makes next, having very little idea what it actually is. The clowns, like he's like, well, I just love, I love me a clown, so just gonna make a whole film about him. That'll be my legacy.
There you go. Well, I think we're to that part, and you basically already answered this, but on the record, would you recommend the film?
I think no. And that's not, I think it's important for me to clarify that when we're doing these recommendations, it's not like, is this overall good or is this overall bad? It's, for me, it's how it made me feel and whether I would, like, I am staking my personal taste on recommending this to people. And not that I think that this is distasteful. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's a very well made film, like extravagantly shot and just absolute spectacle and experience.
Yeah.
But I think overall, no. I think
fair enough.
If I, like, we've talked a lot about like watching these things out of context too, and I think this would be, I think we pointed out elements of that make this a Fellini film, but I don't even think you fully get like who Fellini is. Like, if this was your only Fellini, like, what a weird one to pick. But I've even read on the internet that some people, this was their first Fellini. I wish I could wipe my memory and just like experience, honestly, each one of his films as the first film of his. So it's a no for me, but not because it's bad, not because it's not worth seeing, but just because it is so avant-garde and so strange, and for me transcends. We say, would you recommend this film? And I think it does transcend the genre of film or the medium of film for me. I think I have an idea, but would you recommend this film?
I get what you're saying. Like, I would give a caveat of, if you, the listener, know that you are a narrative above all else viewer, I'd probably stay away, or or try it out just to try it out. But it probably isn't going to be the film that convinces you of the primarily visual works out there. But yeah, I mean, just as a film, I absolutely recommend this. I was pretty impressed. Just so many shots had to be just in absolute awe of what they achieved here, from that first city in the ground to the endless field, the dirt field. I mean, even just the watercrafts and boats and the labyrinth, and I mean, every time that I was like, okay, well, there goes the budget. Like, we have nothing left for the rest of this film. Like, I was wrong. It is just beautiful to look at. But yeah, I guess if this is your first time with a non-narrative film, like, maybe there's probably easier ones out there. But yeah, no, I was thoroughly impressed by this, and I would absolutely tell people to check it out if they're interested in checking out Fellini. Yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't start here. I don't think this serves as a good introduction, although maybe it'll serve as a good introduction to what's next. So we still have half the filmography inadvertently.
Yeah, literally, I think we were at the halfway point here, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, it feels like we're at the end, but we're not. As always, if you agree or disagree with anything we've said here, you can write to us, retrospectivecinemapodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram at retro_sin, CIN. We've been hyping it up for weeks. There finally are thoughts on the drama up as of...
Oh my gosh.
They're there.
Ryan's thoughts. Bless you for doing that.
That's all good.
Yeah, there's a lot of drama in my life that prevented me.
Hopefully nothing that film's referring to.
No. Unrelated. Unrelated.
And then, I plan on seeing Mother Mary today, because I think that's going to be my only chance. I mean, goodness gracious, this film, day one, is only in one theater and 3 screenings in Bakersfield, at least. If you're trying to see that film, just get out there.
Wow, I did not even register that Michaela Cole just has 2 films coming out at exactly the same time. Because I am going to race to see The Christophers. I'm very excited about that one.
Yeah, I'll look for your thoughts on that one, because it looks like that's literally not coming to my town, which is crazy.
Dang.
And then, yes, I definitely will be seeing Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Speaking of directors' names in the title, that one's in there.
Ooh.
But yeah, also, check us out. I'm on Letterboxd at Ryan Loves Film.
And I am also there at Annie Morell. And next week, as I mentioned, I'm the clowns.
Clown.
We get Fellini just... He's like, it can't be in the shadows anymore. It's got to be the main event. My love of clowns. So I'm really excited. I am going to try to watch this with my clown loving friend, Jeremy. Shout out, Jeremy. But we'll see. I haven't pitched it to him yet. It's just e-clowns in Italian. So whether you're catching up with various Michaela Cole projects in theaters, checking out Toby Dammit, checking out Satyricon, if we've enticed
check out
you.
Toby Dammit. I really was not prepared for how much I was going to love that thing.
Check out Toby Dammit, watch The Clowns so you can listen to us talk about it next week. And whatever you're watching, happy watching.